Rumor has it, Zoro's arms are inflatable. Can he make his feet gigantic? What about his head? Show me Zoro's expandable butt. He and Frankie could be butt buddies.
Don't bring your fetishes into this.
They're Oda's fetishes. I'm just acknowledging that they exist and giving him room to express himself.
I wish you wouldn't.
It's season 4 of King of the What Now. Before the world government, we ain't gonna bow. We're gonna rescue Rob and unite the crew. We're not gonna stop till our mission is through. Spanum's a dick, yeah, you know it's true. We wanna punch his face till he's black and blue. These government agents think they're justice, but regarding their tactics, I'm rather disgusted. The Straw Hats are pumped up and fists are flying. There's a hairy kaiju and lightning striking. Hearts burning hot in passionate flames. With phantom blades the giraffe is slain. Luffy is dashing, his skin's all red. Don't get in the way or you'll end up dead. The Straw Hats, yeah, they're on the attack. So now Saga King, burn down that flag!
Hello, fellow adventurers.
Hello, Adventures of the Grand Line, and welcome to episode 84. Wait,
King of the What Now? I took it. I said the name
but
of the
you didn't say it in the right King of the What
King
Now.
of the What Now?
We are a One Piece podcast. We're feeling very silly today. We are reviewing One Piece, the anime, from the very beginning. As always, I'm your host, Joel. I'm your host, as always, Joel, and I'm a longtime fan of the series. I've been reading this stuff for like 10, 15 years, probably not 15, probably closer to like 12-ish, but been reading it for a long time and watching it for a long time. And also, my kicks have been powered up with the spices of the devil. It has the... Damn it, I don't know the line off the top of my head. Something about kicks more powerful than the devil. It burns. Sanji is a goddamn badass.
Got cayenne and ghost pepper. That's how spicy my kicks are.
That's right, you're cooking in my kitchen. If you can't handle the heat, get the heck out. And joining me is, as always,
joining you, as always, is your ghost cat. Your co-host. I'm Kat. I'm the co-host.
No longer a ghost. You're not a host. You're not a ghost anymore. You possessed a body because I
think so. I don't know. I like being a ghost. I've taken that on, but I'm not the ghost of the show. I just am, in general, a non-corporeal entity.
This is true. Yes.
And today I am.
Oh, you're a cube. Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense.
And you might think that I can't attack as a cube, but actually I can kick all four leggies real fast.
Look at the leggies just going.
I can't believe Oda invented Minecraft.
Yes, absolutely. You know, I kind of thought that since I was doing, like, my foot's on fire and, like, lighting up the cigarette and all that stuff, I mean, I guess I didn't make the sound effect for that, but... I thought maybe you would be like a 9-sword user, but you subverted my expectations.
Yeah, I could have been Asura.
Look, giraffes are just cooler than demon gods of destruction, all right?
Listen, I'm on this mic with all the wild power of a giraffe.
Oh no. This is King of the What Now, After Hours.
Gonna be King of the Giraffes. Okay. When you say After Hours, that makes it sound sexy. This isn't a sexy episode,
but you said wild power. Should I put my shirt back on?
No.
Okay. No, okay. Let's start off this episode with chatting with the hosts. And let's just say that, you know, we used to record very regularly, and then we built up this backlog, and then things happened in the holidays, and so it's been a little while since we've recorded. This is also the first time we've been at the mic after the calendar year switched over to 2020, so that's just fantastic.
Is your New Year's resolution to record more regularly?
I mean, that is part of it. Yes, absolutely. Hopefully that doesn't mean a disruption in the release schedule, because like I said, we had a backlog, so we're not going to have like a delay of episode, I don't think, unless there's some kind of emergency. But, Catherine, why don't you tell us about the first thing I have written down here that we have experienced since the last time we recorded? You're very excited about this.
Yes, we got to see Promare in theaters, and it was everything that I had hoped for. The music was great, the animation was colorful and fun, and the story was like a little typical, but also I don't care because I go to movies to have fun, and I had So much fun.
I will say, as much as some of it was pretty like, oh, I wonder if those two will team up. I wonder if this person, blah, blah, blah. I will say that I did not expect the fire to be what it was.
Yes.
So can you just give our listeners, I'm sure most of them have seen this movie, but just like, what's the 5,000-foot view of this movie?
Sure. So some years before the movie takes place, people started to randomly combust. And it turned out that they had become what are called burnishes, which are people that can control living fire.
I don't think that they would combust. I think you're getting that mixed up with Fire Force. I think they could control the fire.
They were combusting at the beginning of the movie on the train and stuff, and then they learned to control it later.
Okay, because I was about to say the burnishes we meet are not made of fire. Okay, I got confused.
Yeah, this is what happens when you let a Joel interrupt a Catherine. But anyway, so there are people. They can burst into flame. They can control the fire to a certain extent. In the present day, the firefighters have been formed to stop them because some of them, the Mad Burnish, are lighting things on fire on purpose because we find out that Burnish have to burn things to live.
Yes. But the government and the world in general don't know that. And so they assume that they're just terrorists, that are just burning for fun. And so, like, you gotta stop them from burning stuff down.
Right. We find out that the government is taking them captive and doing experiments on them for an ultimate purpose that, you know, I feel like it spoils kind of the major, like, twist of the movie. So I'm not going to explain why the government is doing that. But yeah, and the cute firefighter and the leader of the Mad Burnish decide to team up and stop the bad stuff from happening.
Yeah, and it has LGBT undertones because it's two male leads and they share a kiss, but was it a kiss or was it a CPR?
Like, it's Studio Trigger, so it was very baity. So people who watch Studio Trigger stuff will know that, like, it's never going to be explicit, but it was closer than some things got.
Here's what I'll say, just to talk about that one specific scene near the end where they, like, officially fall in love or whatever. They do share a kiss, but it is CPR, so I could understand some people being like, well, it wasn't actually a kiss. But when they get in the giant robot, because you know there's going to be a giant robot, there's a literal heart that forms behind them. And so I personally didn't feel the romance between these two characters. I don't feel as though they had the kind of back and forth that I'm used to seeing in movies where they try to build up a relationship. But I think that the creators were definitely trying to say, like, this is why they work so good as a team is because of that. And absolutely, wave your gay pride flags. I'm happy for it. I want more of it, but I want it to be a little bit more explicit, and I want there to be more build up towards it rather than it feeling like a C plot in the mix of all of this crazy pyrokinesis. That's what it's called.
I do think that Gallo and Leo had great chemistry. Like you said, they didn't have the back and forth you would expect, but I think that maybe you should just watch the movie again.
Okay, maybe. It's entirely possible.
But no, it was very good. If you didn't get a chance to see it in theaters, I'm very sad for you, and I recommend checking it out when you can.
Absolutely. Okay, and we also have The Magicians, which is a show on the Sci-Fi Network.
That Joel has been watching. I claim nothing of this.
The Magicians is a show that I've been aware of for some time. It's on the Sci-Fi Network, I think is where it airs regularly, but in the United States at least, it's also on Netflix. I wanted something to just kind of like play in the background while I was doing other stuff, and it kind of sucked me in. It's a little CW drama. If you don't know what that means, you know, it just... it's a lot of young people who are very attractive, and there's a lot of sexy shenanigans and a lot of drama. Some of the drama is very well written, but some of the drama is like, why are these two fighting? Oh, that's right, because they didn't tell each other that they both had a secret, even though the more people who knew the secret, the easier it would be for them to, you know, fight the bad guy or whatever. If you tell someone you're being manipulated by a demon, it's much easier for them to help you free yourself from that demon, that sort of thing. Some of the episodes are kind of silly, like silly enough that I'm like, this is kind of a weird show, but some of the plot twists and some of the ways that they interact is very well done. I have not quite fully caught up, but I did get through about 3 seasons in about 3 weeks, so I would say that I am firmly in the grip of this show. And I would suggest you check it out, but like a lot of shows, it has a slow start. I would recommend trying to get at least partially into season 2 before officially deciding that you hate it. Unless it's like super obvious that you like the first episode, you're just like, I hate everything about this. But if you're lukewarm, I'd say it does get better once the characters start actually working together and such.
There's an episode in like season 4 where they all sing. So.
Yes. Season 3, because they're still on the quest, to adjust my nerd glasses. But basically, it ends in a big musical number is how they solve that particular problem. And I've been told they apparently can't sing, but I don't notice. I'm tone deaf, so I'm just like, yeah, there's 8 actors all singing a song. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was really sick for like a month now. How long has it been? A long time. I've been sick since like Thanksgiving. And anytime I get sick, I lay on the couch and I binge watch Parks and Rec until I'm capable of doing other things. And
let's be honest, though. Once you get better, you still finish it out of a sense of needing to complete it. You need to see all the episodes.
I love that show.
It's a very good show.
Yeah.
So you just recently finished your rewatch of that?
Yeah, for like the 12th time now. I've been trying to keep track, but honestly, I've rewatched it so many times that... but no, it's a really solid show. The first 2 seasons, I think, are harder to get through, and then the best character shows up at the end of season 2, and he is in the rest of the series, and he's wonderful, and I love him.
I firmly believe that they hadn't had a pretty good idea, but they hadn't fully fleshed it out for the first season or so, and the writing gets much better. Yeah, once you introduce Ben Wyatt and Chris Traeger as characters, they are both wonderful, and I feel like the writers also hit their groove with some of the other characters, like April and Ron. I feel like their relationship, kind of like a surrogate father type figure, it's a little bit more obvious in later seasons than in earlier ones and that sort of thing. So, yeah, that's absolutely great. And then next we're going to go into another movie. It's probably out of theaters by the time this comes out. In fact, I think it's out of theaters at the time of recording, but we saw Knives Out, and I just want to point out, gosh dang, that's a really entertaining movie. It's not only a kind of mystery, whodunit situation where there's an actual gripping mystery, but I really liked the different leads in it. Chris Evans, Captain America, is in there, and Jane Lynch is the eldest daughter of the world-famous author, think like Stephen King type of person, and Daniel Craig is the detective, and he's gosh darn charming in that movie, and I would very much enjoy another movie with that detective character whose name I can't remember in something else.
His eyes are so blue.
Yes. And so, yeah, it was just a thrilling good time, and all of the characters were super exaggerated, and I love it.
Yeah, if you go and you're like, I'm gonna solve this whodunit, you'll probably solve it within like the first 5 minutes. It wasn't super shocking what happened, but I don't necessarily think that's always the point. Sometimes the point is just look at these ridiculous people and how they talk to each other and how they live.
As always, I'm an idiot and I wasn't really able to figure out who did it, but I wasn't really thinking about who did it. But the other thing, too, is now murder mysteries these days have so many red herrings and so many like twists and turns that how likely is it that the first suspect is actually the killer and you're trained to not think he's the killer, and then what are the chances that this, that, or the other thing? And so I just try not to think too much when I'm watching these. I assume the ending will eventually tell me who did it, unless it's that one really famous and then there was none story.
Yes. Also, alternative title, 10 Little Indians, but I think they changed it because they didn't like the original.
Interesting.
It comes from a poem that starts with like, it's like a monkeys on the bed.
Whatever. Oh, okay.
Like you lose one at a time until.
Or the beers on the wall. Yeah. You just drank all of the Indians. That's a weird sentence I never thought I'd say on the podcast.
Yeah, so that kind of wraps up chatting.
No, it does not. There is one last subject that I would like to talk about. Let's all get aboard so that we can talk about ToQger. Choo choo! And Catherine, you are enjoying the series immensely, so why don't you take it away?
Yes, it's Power Rangers, but the theme is trains.
Okay.
Trains and imagination. And, you know, if you are thinking back to Power Rangers when you were a kid and you're like, oh, they fought a monster every week and the monster, they defeated it and then it got really big and then they defeated it again and that was every episode. Yeah, that's still what Power Rangers is, but it's trains, which is awesome.
They're also powered by imagination, and there's this whole plot where we're only like 6 episodes in, I think, where the bad guys are like this family, and like the mother wants to marry off their daughter to the evil overlord that's going to show up, and the uncle is like this crazy like tactician and all this crazy stuff. I will say that if you are familiar with I think it's called Saban's Power Rangers, the show that was on in the 90s with Jason and all them, or I think it's still airing these days. That's the Americanized version, and the Super Sentai is the original Japanese version, and that's what ToQger is. I don't think they actually properly brought this one over for an adaptation in America.
Although, fun fact I learned from the wiki, they used footage from this one for an American show.
Yeah, for like one of the Turbo or something like that. Yeah, so basically the American guys, they splice up bits and pieces, and I think they use the monster fights, but I think for the unmasked drama of like their everyday lives when they're not fighting evil, I think that they edit those, but I don't know if they still do that for current seasons, but I know that was the case for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
I really like the motif. That's not...
Theme?
The gimmick. The gimmick of having them on a train, because of course they're fighting like Monster of the Week style battles because they're in a different place every episode.
Yes. I also really appreciate that the different monsters are trying to essentially corrupt humans in different ways. I watched Power Rangers a lot as a kid, but I only vaguely remember like Rita Repulsa and Goldar. I don't remember the individual monsters, but it didn't feel like they had a theme. It was just sort of like, I'm going to send an evil monster to do evil things. But these monsters are specifically, I'm going to take everyone's food so they get starved to death. I'm going to make everyone fight duels against each other. Like, they're themed, and they're essentially trying to pit humans against humans or make humans miserable. And so I also like that. It's really cool.
What would you say was your favorite monster that ToQger has had
The dual guy. The dual guy is so good.
He's my favorite too. They show up to this town where when the bell strikes, everybody has to fight a duel, but they don't know what's happening, so they just stand there and watch. And the monster comes in and he goes, "Which cowards didn't duel?"
Yeah, you're not allowed to refuse to duel.
And they look around and they're like, "Well, we just got here. We didn't know the rules." And the guy goes, "Oh, fair enough." And he walks away.
He goes, "I guess so, but next time there's a duel, make sure you participate." And the leader, who's, I'm pretty sure, always the Red Ranger, goes, "I'm going to duel you next time." So he has like this giant coin, and he throws in the air, and the Red Ranger just shoots out of the air. He goes, "I'm going to duel you." It's pretty entertaining. If you're not into, how would I say this? If you think that simplistic plots are just kind of, crap, or you think episodic shows aren't for you, then it might not be for you. But give it a try. You might like it. We really did. And that, I think, wraps up the Chatting with the Host segment. Catherine, can you think of anything else? You are rereading Golden Compass, if you wanted to go into details about that.
I am. You are listening to the audiobook with me, so do we want to discuss it now, or do we want to discuss it when we finish?
Let's discuss the Golden Compass, the first book, or the Northern Lights, right? Isn't that what it's called in some other countries? But
yes, it's only called the Golden Compass in America.
Interesting. Well, we here are a very America-centric podcast, so
we are technically located in America most of the time.
Yeah.
Don't let her in. She's just gonna make more noise.
No, she isn't.
There she goes.
Everyone, welcome Mia to the recording studio. And by the way, really quick, we moved the table that we record on, and it's just weird. It's like when you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, or when you're on vacation, you're like, this isn't my room. It's just like this weird sense that like things are slightly off.
Yes, for example, I have a wall behind me, and everything Joel says is echoing off the wall and making it seem that much louder in my ears.
Oh man, I'm already a loud person to begin with. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Okay, so
the Golden Compass.
First book in the Golden Compass series. What's his Dark Materials.
Those sure are some dark materials.
Listen, I haven't gotten to the part where they even mention anything being dark, so I have no idea why the trilogy is called that.
Yes, you have. There was a poem at the very beginning of the first one that's by some famous poet. I don't remember who right now, but that's where the series title comes from.
Movies and books that start with a quote or a poem are complete nonsense. Harry Potter also had that, where he drank the luck potion and there was just 4 pages of a rhyme or a riddle or something. I 100% skipped that. I legitimately did not read those words because I was like, there's no way that this is actually relevant.
The poem is called Paradise Lost and is by Milton and is into this wild abyss, the womb of nature and perhaps her grave, of neither sea nor shore nor air nor fire, but all these in their pregnant causes mixed, confusedly, and which thus must ever fight, unless the Almighty Maker them ordain his dark materials to create more worlds. So it does have a lot to do with the themes and the motifs of the story, was the point of me reading that. Basically, the idea is that the dark materials belong to God, that's the his, and he uses them to create multiple worlds, which is the whole point of the series, is that there's many worlds overlapping with one another, and they all share a common destiny.
I guess so. So, you reread this every year. What brings you back to it?
Well, they're just a really solidly told story, I feel like. Pullman has a talent for writing children's voices that not a lot of authors share. It's very hard to write children as an adult and not make them sound like whiny or stupid or incapable. And he writes children the way I would argue children experience their own lives. So they come off sounding more like small adults, I suppose, than like we envision children when we think about what children are like.
Yeah,
makes it not so annoying to read.
I love it. I think that there's an interesting kind of narrative focus there, or a motif or a theme where, you know, the main character Lyra is on the cusp of puberty, and there's a big deal drawn about this world. There's magic, essentially. It's kind of science fiction-y magic, but there's things about the world that are unexplained, and people are trying to figure it out, and it affects people who are children and people who have gone through puberty differently. There's a definitive line, and Lyra works with a lot of adults and a lot of children, and the way they interact with her, or the way they respect her, the way they treat her, it's completely different depending on that. So I think that's a huge focus for Philip Pullman, the author of the series, and I think it's just really interesting the way that the different authority figures that you meet, the woman with the golden monkey, Lord Asriel, is that how it's pronounced? Okay. And then like the people of Jordan College and the Egyptians. I think it's interesting that they each kind of reflect a different type of authority or a different type of adulthood, and you know, maybe some of them are good, maybe some of them are bad, but, you know, most of them suck because the world does kind of suck.
Yeah,
so
and adults kind of suck.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting the fact that she has this item that she's the chosen one because she can use it, but kind of anyone can use it, but she's special because she can use it her way, which is without looking up some encyclopedia of meanings and stuff. So I that's a pretty interesting magic system. So yeah.
Plus there are magical animal companions.
There's shape-shifting magical animal companions, and talking bears who made armor out of their souls. So, you know, it's pretty good. It's also being adapted into an Amazon TV series.
HBO.
Thank you. Anyways, it's being adapted as an HBO TV series, and maybe that's your favorite thing. Maybe it isn't. We prefer the books a little bit, but also sometimes seeing things in real life or like with your own eyes and with music and soundtrack and stuff can make it better. So be sure to check that out if you so choose. And we're back to the regular episode. We just finished watching episode 297, 298, 299, and 300 of One Piece. We've done it! We made it to 300 episodes! Hooray! That's almost an episode for every day of the year. So, honestly, that's what we should be doing. One episode a day until we're all caught up.
Okay. We do a podcast episode for every 10 episodes from here on out?
Something like that, yeah. Every 7 episodes, because once a week, that's what we'll do. No, we're not going to do that. We'll stick to our format, but, I mean, just, wow, we've hit a milestone. That's pretty good. Okay, so, we've been doing the succinct summary kind of wrap thing, and, you know, I'm not sure how I feel about it. I thought that it would feel pretty good coming up with, you know, kind of the rhythm and such, but, you know, listening back, I'm not super proud with how it sounds, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer. These are supposed to be succinct summaries, after all. So, you know, listeners, dial in right now on your phones, text 1-800-COTWIN, dial 7 for regular, human-readable succinct summaries, and dial 9 for rap form. All right? Enter those numbers. And all right, we're just going to go with the regular summary this episode. So, here's what's going on. Zoro and Usopp are now uncuffed. Zoro is able to fight at full power. He starts fighting Kaku. Jabra goes after Usopp, who he knows is rather weak, and just before Usopp is killed, Sanji shows up and protects him. So Sanji basically says, I will fight Jabra, you have a task that only you can do that I can't, and it will save Robin, so go and do that. It takes Usopp a second, but eventually he figures it out. Nami's going along with him because she doesn't want to be attacked by the scary wolf man. While those 4 are fighting, I guess, Sanji and Jabra, Zoro and Kaku. Robin is now trying to fight Spandam with every breath that she has, tooth and nail, and it's not going good. These are pretty heavy episodes. Should come with a trigger warning, honestly. But she is doing everything she can to not pass through the gates of justice as she waits to be saved. Frankie is desperately racing to find her. He has a couple of the keys. I think he has 2 of them, or maybe 3 of them, and he's trying to find Robin. He finds the room that Luffy and Lucci are fighting in, and he's like, I'll help you fight Lucci, and Luffy goes, no, go on without me. So Luffy is fighting Lucci. Gear Second activates again. We see that glowing red power up of his. Lucci goes into leopard form. And even though Lucci's much stronger, Luffy's able to hold him off just long enough for Frankie to push through the doors, and he's gonna go and save Robin. Back to the fighting with Sanji and Jabra, he activates a new technique, Diable Jambe, which he activates by spinning around, and he basically superheats his leg, and his kick is now powerful enough and hot enough that Jabra's Tekai can't stop it, and he delivers the finishing blow when he gets Jabra's key. Zoro is fighting Kaku, and he's slowly learning how to fight this giraffe assassin man, and eventually he busts out a new technique, and I wish I could explain it, but I can't. He summons 3 extra heads and 4 extra arms, and he calls it Asura. Sorry, the fact that it's not spelled with an H always throws me off, but he summons Asura, and he uses the 9-sword style to deliver a blow that defeats Kaku. And so now he and Sanji have gotten Jabra and Kaku's keys, and I don't know if it showed us what was happening, but I'm pretty sure they're going to go deliver it to Usopp, because he's still nearby where Frankie is. He's way out there. They don't know where the heck Frankie is.
Right.
And
they're all just running on their way to Robin.
Absolutely. And that has been your Succinct Summary.
Maybe I was trying to change it, make it more succinct.
You should have put out a poll on the telephone lines. Dial 1 for a shorter succinct summary, dial 2 for the normal one, 3 for both.
Boop. Here's something.
Sure.
So the last major arc we had, Alabasta, was very macro. It was about a large-scale conflict. There was a civil war happening, and somebody was trying to take over a country, and kings were being framed for things. But this is a very micro conflict. It's about one person.
Essentially, yes.
I really appreciate Oda's ability to make the micro feel as important and as dramatic as the macro.
Absolutely. I wonder what the secret sauce for that is. Is it just the fact that we care about Robin as a person? Is it kind of all of the abuse that Spandam is putting into it? Or is it the fact that the Straw Hats couldn't keep up with the CP9 members for a short period there?
Yeah, well, I mean, like Chuck Wendig said, stories are Soylent Green. They're made of people. So I think in Alabasta, we didn't necessarily care about the major conflict. We cared about Vivi. And
Certainly.
Vivi was very injured, like personally, by this conflict that was going on. And so we cared about the conflict as an extension. And so here we care about Robin, and it just so happens that the major conflict is just Robin.
Okay, I see what you're saying. It doesn't expand beyond that. I love that, and it's great. I do also want to point out something. So this is a theme that is present in Enies Lobby that I couldn't talk about because it hadn't happened yet. But you will notice that back in Water 7, Zoro and Luffy were unable to defeat Lucci and Bluno, and then Usopp also was defeated by the Frankie family, so there was a lot of trials and tribulations that they weren't able to overcome. Sanji wasn't able to get Robin to come back. But now we hit Enies Lobby, and what do we see? Nami busts out the new climb attack that has the lightning bolt. Sogeking / Usopp has the Kabuto, which is a better long-range slingshot. Luffy has gear 2nd, and we know that he has a gear 3rd. We just don't know exactly how it works or what it does, but they make him a better fighter. Sanji has Diable Jambe, Chopper busts out Monster Point, and Zoro has Asura, the 9-sword style. So this arc so far has been about growth, and they have all hit like a level up moment. Something that I was trying to kind of do with Curtis is every time one of the crew members busted out like a new attack, I wanted to call it out as, look at that, that's a level up moment. But this entire arc is leveling up for everyone on the crew, And I think that's amazing. And they're doing it because one of their own is being threatened.
Right. And from what I remember of the rest of the series, we get a lot of moments like these for the main three, for Luffy and Sanji and Zoro, but we don't always get the whole crew gets to level up all at once.
Right, yeah, and we've had battles where people have overcome without developing a new technique. Consider, say, Usopp and Chopper versus Miss Merry Christmas and Mr. Four. They didn't really bust out a new technique. They just kind of figured out a new way of using Chopper's horn point and using trickery and stuff. And so it is just kind of cool that all of these battles are settled by busting out these new techniques. So,
yeah, absolutely. About those new techniques.
Yes.
Do we want to talk about Asura?
What about Asura? The fact that it's the weirdest mystery in all of One Piece?
So, okay, every time I see this, you go, what is that? What is he doing? And I'm like, well, it was an illusion. Like, his fighting spirit is so strong that he scares the opponent into seeing more heads than he actually has.
Absolutely not.
No, I don't think so.
No, because first off, Kaku explicitly says, was that an illusion? No, I don't think so. I thought he said something like that.
Kaku does say, is it an illusion?
Yes. Also, when he's using his spinning giraffe attack and he's building up momentum, he creates kind of an area of effect, he creates a tornado, basically, where he's blowing the wind. And when Zoro is getting ready to use whatever attack he is, it actually shows that wind getting pushed back by the weird darkness that's surrounding Zoro. I think there is significance to Zoro's 9-sword style, but I don't know what it is. My question is, can any swordsman do it? Can any fighter do it? So, what's the superset or the subset of people that can use it? Is it only Zoro? Is it all swordsmen? Or is it literally anyone who has a particular life view?
Yeah, well, and he said something about all are welcome on the path of Asura, or all who bleed are welcome, or something like that.
You did well, I commend you. Suffering is welcome on the path to bloodshed.
Yes, and in the original subtitles, it was the path of Asura, which makes me think that maybe this is some sort of specific religious thing. And so anybody who does Zoro's same Buddhist philosophy could access this?
Sure, okay. I would love to explore that because that's not really an aspect that we see much from Zoro or really any of the crews. And I feel like crew members, the closest I feel that we get is the fact that Skypiea had some religious overtones. But all we got there is that Zoro doesn't believe in God, which, there's many alternative worldviews that, atheist, agnostic, he could believe in a person or sort of thing.
Yeah. We know Mihawk is Catholic, but just for the aesthetic.
Now, how do you know that the final battle isn't going to take place minutes before Mass? And Mihawk is just going to be like, I have to go. The Holy Mother is calling to me.
Now I'm just imagining Mihawk in 20 years after Zoro's defeated him as a priest.
Oh, dear goodness.
I left the path of violence behind. Now I use God's love style.
Okay, so you think that anyone who follows this lifestyle, so it doesn't have to be a sword technique thing?
No.
Okay, you think that someone else could grow extra arms? Although, if you are not a swordsman, what would the extra mouths be for? Because that gives Zoro an extra place to hold his swords, but...
spooking your opponents, man.
Spooking your opponents? Okay. More meat holes for Luffy? He can just be eating 3 different steaks at the same time?
I have a shiny and crisp $2 bill for you if
wow,
you never say meat holes again.
I'm just trying to find our podcast voice. I thought using words like ear holes and meat holes was the correct... Oh, no, don't take the $2 bill away from me. No! Okay. No, I think it's very interesting. I want another opponent to show up immediately, right? Without any future knowledge, I immediately want to see Mihawk bust out 9-sword style or 27-sword style or something like that. I want there to be an opponent who can also do this thing that Zoro can do. Also, you'll notice that he used it when none of the other crew members are around, so no one's gonna know. Zoro's not the talkative type. He's not gonna be like, hey, Robin, saved you. Grew extra heads and arms just for you, babe. He's not going to bust that out, so no one's going to know he has this in his back pocket.
Yeah, I mean, and I can't remember. I'm not great at paying attention to fights, which I think we've established before, but I don't remember if he ever does this again. or if this was like a one time, I used it and now we're never going to mention it again.
The nine sword style for Zoro is equivalent to Luffy's Gum Gum Storm that he used to defeat Crocodile. Everyone, as far as I know, I'm not huge onto like the online forums or whatever, but as soon as it came out, people were like, are we going to see this again? And I believe he said 9 sword style and he had a name. It was like Rain of Mist or Blood Mist or something. So does he have other attacks? Will we see, 108 times by, will we see a 324 pound cannon where he's just a cycle of blades?
324 pound Asura.
Yeah.
That would be pretty awesome.
Also, the other thing that I'm wondering is when he was younger and he was trying to fight Kuina and he kept trying to add more and more swords, eventually he had a 27 sword style that he used. It lasted like 2 seconds because Kuina is awesome. But is he gonna get like another one where he has 3 Asuras that are back to back, so he has a total of 27 blades? He's just like this blade hedgehog thing. Okay, let's cover a couple of other theories about the 9 sword style, because a lot of people have speculated about this and there's a lot of different questions. What do you think about the idea that this is somehow related to his cursed blade? The idea being that it's a demon, right? Ashura is a demon, and we know that the sword he was given in Logetown, one of them, was cursed, and we haven't seen that come back in any meaningful way. So this could be like he's absorbing its dark energy or something, or it's affecting him.
No, I like the idea that it could be related to his cursed blade. There's a lot of like Zoro traps a demon theories later along the line in the show. And so if demons are going to be a thing, and if they're going to be Zoro's thing specifically, then yeah, let's do it. Let's have there be a demon in each of his swords eventually, and they each give
Black Clover did it.
Special demon power. What the hell is Black Clover?
Black Clover is an anime where the main character has 3 swords, and they each. Well, I think Asta has a devil in him, but he gets powers from swords and devils. So I'm just saying, Black Clover did it. Okay.
Fine.
I would love to see Zoro yelling like Asta in the anime, though.
Here's a theory I had when we were watching the episodes. Kaku explicitly said, could he have summoned this form from his will?
From his fighting spirit, sure.
And so, is that a thing? Like, can people just change their physical body based on their fighting spirit in the One Piece world? Zoro inflates his
arms, yeah, he used like the gorilla 2-sword style, and his is that the biceps? His biceps just like literally like boom, like they were made out of rubber. Is he slowly gaining rubber-like abilities because he's the closest to Luffy? No, that's a crack theory. But I think that'd be interesting. Here's my frustration with it, though. We haven't seen anyone else do this. Like, I would argue that in terms of fighting spirit, Lucci and Luffy are either on par with Zoro or maybe just inking out a little bit higher. So how come Luffy isn't growing extra arms and legs?
Well, I would disagree. I think that Luffy is driven to be himself, whereas Zoro is driven specifically to defeat other people.
Okay.
Like, Luffy, if an opponent said, I don't want to fight you, I think Luffy would be like, alright, and he would move on to something else. But I think Zoro would be like, no, we're fighting.
Okay. I could see that. That's a very interesting observation. Is there a drawback? Because, like, in shonen things, usually when a character has a power-up, there's some kind of a drawback to it. So, Chopper's monster point that he busted out, it was hurting him. Zoro explicitly pointed that out, and they had to save Chopper from himself. He lost all sense or whatever. It seems like Sanji's Diable Jambe, which we should talk about, it also has a time limit. He said something about, like, I had to use my last kick to defeat you rather than blocking your attack. So can Zoro only do it for a short period of time? Does it shorten his life? Did he make a deal with the devil? Like, how would you, if you were somehow put in charge of One Piece right now, right after he busted up the attack, what would you have it cost him?
Oh gosh, if I were going to have it be an actual thing and not just an illusion, like he actually has 3 heads and however many arms when he does this, then I would have it cost him energy.
Okay.
Because you have to use energy to swing one sword. Well, if you've now got 3 arms that are swinging that sword, it should cost you 3 times the energy.
Here's another thing. He said that blood is welcome on the path to Asura, and if you were paying attention to that fight, he was getting hit pretty hard. He was getting cut up. Maybe the cost is blood. Maybe he can only summon Asura when his back is against the wall and he's lost enough pints. That's been not a fan theory exactly, but a fan joke that Zoro becomes stronger the more blood he loses. So,
No,
yeah.
I like that, yeah.
That would also explain why Luffy hasn't been able to summon extra arms and legs, because maybe Luffy hasn't bled that much. You know, for the most part, he takes, like, blunt damage, but he isn't often cut up as much as Zoro is, who is fighting other opponents with blades. So there you go. That's the cost. He needs to give enough blood. Can he cut himself, or does it have to be blood drawn in battle? I think it has to be drawn in battle,
It's
obviously.
suffering, so he needs to listen to Evanescence and write sad poetry about
He locks
his
himself in his room, and absolutely. Okay. The other thing I'm wondering is, what if Zoro is somehow borrowing future strength? I don't know exactly how to put it into words, but what if he actually wasn't quite strong enough to defeat Kaku with just his 3 blades, so he needed a little bit more, so maybe he's, like, sapping energy from somewhere. Maybe he's, what was it called in Mistborn? The people who can store things?
Oh, he's doing the Furukumi.
Furukumi, yeah. He's storing strength earlier or later, and he's just kind of depleting that well in order to do one final strike, so... But anyways, that's definitely the most what the heck moment in these episodes, and I still don't get it, and feel free to email us or tweet at us your theories about Asura. So
yeah, was Asura your favorite level up moment, or did you like Diable Jambe better?
Sanji is my boy. I'm pretty sure that this arc / saga, if you want to include the Water 7 stuff, is when I kind of realized that Sanji's my favorite, because Zoro's power is pretty cool, but like it's hard to explain. It's like the badass level of cool. It's like how in later Die Hard movies, it seems like Mr. Die Hard, I don't actually know his name, is pretty much indestructible. Like, he'll crash a car and just get out and brush the glass off of his shoulder, and he's just like, that didn't hurt at all. That's what Zoro feels like to me. He feels like the guy who tries really hard to be cool and shows no weakness. Whereas Sanji, he feels a little bit more human, and he's trying, and like, the spinning in order to ignite your foot on fire, that's some anime bullspit logic, but it at least makes sense in terms of anime bullspit. Being able to summon extra body parts feels like cheating to me. So, and I mean, Sanji's finishing line and the line he says as he uses it, so much cooler. Careful not to insult women, because I tend to heat up. And then he starts spinning, and Jabra's like, what is that light? And then he's like, the destructive power of the devil, delivered with a high-speed kick. It's super powerful. And you're like, oh my god. No. Flames burning hotter than hell, delivered with a high-speed kick, has more destructive power than a devil. It's just like, so good! I guess that was too spicy for you. Welcome to the Sanji fan club. I loved his fight with Jabra.
It was very cool, which is funny to me because I think Sanji is kind of one of the goofier characters.
Yes.
When he's not, like, purposefully trying
He has a switch, and he flips it back and forth, and Zoro's switch is much... Like, the shift when he's goofy is still not quite as goofy as Luffy or Sanji, and some argue that goofiness of Zoro kind of goes away as the series goes on, but Sanji he's a lovable idiot. Sometimes his idiocy is informed by stupid things that I think are absolutely, like, the way he treats women is just kind of stupid. But when he's cool, he's cool.
Yes.
So that's just what I want to say.
Did you have anything else you wanted to say about either of these fights, or do you think we kind of covered your major thoughts?
I don't know if this counts as part of the fight, but how great is it that Jabra the Wolf likes to tell stories in order to lure people in, just like with Red Riding Hood and such?
Yes.
And the way that he tried to tell Sanji about, like, oh yeah, me and Robin are actually brother and sister, and Sanji's like, as if I'd fall for that. And he turns the guy's tricks on him, and Jabra's like, hey, I'm supposed to be the trickster one.
I love when Sanji gets his key and then runs away.
Yes.
That was such a Sanji move. Zoro and Luffy wouldn't think to do that.
No, I don't think so. They're too straight. Well, Luffy's too much of an idiot, and Zoro's too straightforward. He'd be like, it'd be no point in stealing the key. I'm just gonna cut them down.
Yeah. I also wonder, so oftentimes a character's lies have elements of truth in them.
Sure.
So did Jabra have a sister that was kidnapped by pirates? Like, obviously we know it's not Robin, but maybe that's his tragic backstory.
We have no way of knowing. I believe most of the children of CP9, most of the members of CP9 were taken in as children. Khalifa and Kumadori specifically are actually children of assassins themselves. But I don't know if Jabra's past has been explained. It also, in the flashback, he was in wolf form, and I don't know if that's confirmation that he's always had the wolf fruit. We know he's had it for a while, but like adulthood, since childhood, was he born with it?
Maybe that was just Sanji's imagination. Maybe he imagines everybody as like little felt cutouts.
Oh, okay. See, I thought that was the way Jabra was telling the story, but that could be it too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But no, the only other big thing from these fights that I really liked was when Zoro put on his bandana and Kaku said, "Is that towel on your head supposed to make you stronger or something?" And Zoro said, "I guess we'll find out."
Yeah, you'll have to find out. But yeah, I love that. I never noticed that his thing was the bandana. I feel like Sanji's cigarette being lit, and there's also an audio component to that. There's the but that kind of makes sense. Luffy cracking his knuckles is standard anime fare. Everyone who does that in anime is getting ready for a fight. But until this fight, I never noticed that was a conscious thing that Oda did with Zoro to show that he was serious.
Well, I just like it as a lampshading of the protagonist does something to make them stronger, and all of a sudden they fight 1,000 times better than before, like Ash turning his hat backwards.
Okay. I totally get that. Also, I don't really think that there's any, like, deep thematic meaning to this, maybe, but, Jabra, he has a scar over his left eye, I believe, and when he was fighting Sanji, right after Sanji took the key from him, Sanji had a bit of blood because he didn't block every attack from Jabra, and, he almost had a bathtub fall on his head, but the blood over his eye was a mirror for the scar over Jabra's eye, and that's the sort of thing that I only noticed because of the blade-licking thieves and Grant pointing out that kind of thing, but I like it. I don't know what Oda was trying to say with it, but they're both battle damaged.
Yes. No, that was very good. And we're kind of jumping back and forth here between the two fights, but one thing we forgot to ask, Zoro had an attack called Leopard Shot where he spun at Kaku and launched himself.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I looked at you and I went, is he taking inspiration from Sanji?
I mean, so here's the thing about that is we as the audience had already seen Diable Jambe at that point, which is a spinning attack. And back on the sea train, we saw Sanji's kick that almost broke through Blue-Nosed's iron body. That kick was also a spinning technique. But up until now, Sanji hasn't done as much spinning as he does at Eni's lobby. So I like that idea, but I think he'd have to be inspired by Sanji's eyebrows specifically, more so than Sanji's fighting style that he's been using lately. But, I mean, maybe. The other counter is that he used Leopard Shot right after Kaku used, he made his neck extend. It was like Giraffe Cannon. And then he used Rankyaku to make his, back half propel forward. And it was also spinning. So I wonder if Zoro learned from Kaku, I should also add some spinning to my attack,
Yeah.
Why not?
You wrote down here, why couldn't Zoro land a blow at the beginning of the battle?
Yes, I did.
Because it wouldn't be cool, I guess.
Well, no, I do. Here's the thing about power-ups that always kind of gets me in anime. So Goku has his Super Saiyan transformation, and Asta has a black devil form that he takes, and Naruto has the nine-tailed fox. And it always is interesting to note that a lot of fights in especially the movies and filler end when the character decides, I'm going to use my power-up that I could have used 5 episodes ago, and now I'm going to beat you. And it's why didn't you use that earlier? So, Sanji said, oh, you're making me mad, you're going to make me heat up, I'm going to use Diable Jambe. Why didn't he start the fight with Diable Jambe? Especially when he saved Usopp. If he had time to set himself on fire, he could have defeated him right then and there.
The heat of his passion wasn't burning hot enough, I guess.
Are they gathering energy as the fight goes on, and then they slowly... The one thing I will say is that Luffy specifically told Frankie, hey, I can't hold this change in my body for very long. So I guess for Luffy it makes sense. He has to wait until his opponent's weak enough that a finishing blow could be landed, or, as we'll discuss in a minute, when it was critical. But I don't know why Sanji held off from using Diable Jambe, and I don't know what the limitations are on Asura, so I don't know why he didn't summon 9 blades 18 episodes ago. But... the other really quick note about these fights is that there was a scene or a shot that showed Kaku from behind, and I think I came up with an answer as I was recalling the scene. But Kaku's tail is coming out of a hole in his pants.
He has buttless pants.
Yeah, so, Catherine, you were wondering, did he already have pants with a hole in it? And then my observation is, oh god, he can never go back to human form because, it's indecent. So...
And to be clear, like, this isn't a small tail. Like, everything about him is square. So if he turned back to human form, this hole would, like, perfectly be a square over his butt cheeks.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, like, I think that he probably had to make those when he transformed into a giraffe.
Okay, I see. Like, the tail, like, pushed out in the fabric and just kind of ripped a hole or whatever. Now, here's my counterpoint that I just thought of. Maybe it's not a hole in the pants. Maybe his tail comes out just above the pants and below the shirt so it looks like a gap. That might be the explanation that Oda gives, but... I mean, when he was defeated, he was on his back, so we didn't get to see that Kaku butt. We didn't get to see the sweet giraffe cheeks in human form.
You just said sweet giraffe cheeks.
I did.
That's something we're all going to have to live with. Somebody call Jabra the butt cheek doctor.
Oh, man. Okay, so I think that about wraps it up for the Jabra, Kaku, Zoro, Sanji battles. But... Oh, no, actually, I did have one quote, and we've already kind of talked about this, but right after Sanji rescues Usopp, and Usopp's like, I'm sorry, I failed, I wasn't strong enough, and Sanji said, leave this guy to me. For now, I'm going to stay here and do what you can't do. You need to do what I can't do. Think carefully. Read the situation. As long as we have you, there's still a chance we can save Robin. So, Catherine had a funny joke about what can Usopp do? Cry? Get beat up? And... I think that's in general how some people would view it, but it is very interesting that Sanji literally boosted him up. Usopp's arc for this arc is, he's kind of feeling like he's not strong enough. He wasn't strong enough to get the money back. He wasn't able to rescue Robin when they were on the sea train. He wasn't able to defeat Jabra. But Sanji is saying, you're still a valid member of this group, even if you're not physically very strong. And so, yeah.
Yeah, well, and when Sanji said that, even though Usopp was still wearing the mask, it showed him with his normal face, as he was thinking, something I can do? So, he was able to beat Usopp because Sanji said that Usopp was the person they needed.
You know what? Absolutely. He put on the mask because he was trying to hide from his weakness, which is just, essentially what you're saying, but in slightly different words. And then there's also the idea that... when you compare yourself to monsters, people who can do stuff like Zoro and Luffy and Sanji, you're never going to measure up. But if you think about what you can do, maybe there are, special things. The other thing that I will point out is that right before Jabra was about to land the finishing blow and Sanji interrupted, both Zoro and Nami dropped the Soga King disguise and they called him Usopp. And when Sanji was saying, like, there's stuff that you can do, I think he explicitly called him by Usopp. And so... yeah, at that moment, they were just kind of like seeing beyond the mask, although none of them were fooled by the disguise in the first place.
Absolutely.
Okay. I do have another quick thought about the Luffy-Lucci fight. We didn't get much here, but I will point out Luffy did not go into gear second this entire battle until it looked like Frankie was about to be defeated and Frankie was going to be stopped from going to save Robin. That's when you get Jet the Pistol straight into Lucci's face. He gets thrown across the room, and when the smoke clears, here he is in leopard form, his big leopard form, because he has a hybrid form that we haven't seen yet, but and they're raring to go. So the fight has entered the final stages. All the other CP9 members have been defeated. It looks like we are entering the final stretch of episodes, but also Luffy didn't activate his superpower until someone tried to stop one of his allies from accomplishing their goal. Once Frankie was effectively stopped from going through the doors, he got serious, he powered up, and then he prevented Lucci, and Frankie was able to successfully go past those doors with the promise to save Robin. So, theming. Lightning. We also have a quote here that's from Luffy talking to Frankie, right? I think they're grappling. I think they're holding each other's arms and trying to vie for supremacy while Luffy is activated gear second, or maybe this is before. I'm not sure, but forget it. I said I'd take care of him. All right, come on, go, stick to the plan, and leave this guy to me. Frankie is like, but hang on a second, and Luffy cuts him off. That's enough. This is my fight, not yours. I can't lose to him. For the last time, you've got to get out of here and find Robin now. I'm counting on you. If you can't help her, she's gone for good. This is the only chance we're going to get. So, okay. A lot of people point out that Luffy's kind of an idiot, and he seems carefree, but in this moment, he's thinking about the endgame. And not only that, but this is a point that we can't bring up yet because it involves future knowledge, but something about Luffy saying that he has to be the one to beat Lucci, I think part of what makes the Pirate King is that they take on people themselves. That's why Kuro and Buggy and Morgan were basically weak sauce, and they would never be able to achieve their dreams because they're like, oh, I'll just let someone else do it for me. And so that's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Luffy has always been a man to fight his own battles. Even though he could easily hide behind, like, Zoro and be like, my swordsman will beat you for me. Although, do you think Zoro could beat Lucci as he is now?
I'm not sure. How much time, or how fast do you think Lucci could avoid 9 swords? Or do you think he would, try to attack?
How much stronger than Kaku is Lucci? I don't remember their power levels.
Lucci is no. It's Lucci, Jabra, and Kaku. All 3 of them are, like, leagues ahead of the other ones. I think, like, Bluno and Khalifa and Kumadori are, like, 800. They haven't even broken 1,000, and Lucci is 4,000.
Nice.
But I think Jabra and Kaku are, like, not completely behind, but they're still lower.
Okay.
But yeah, this is an interesting fight, and I'm glad that we're going to be able to focus on it. When I was watching the series the first time, I remember kind of being bored by all of the non-Luffy fights, but looking back, that was silly of me, because I think that you have some good moments with each of the crew members and their sacrifices and that they're making for Robin.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about our girl Robin. First off, here's a little thought that I had. The end of this arc is literally a race for time. You've got the Buster Call coming in towards the island. I think we got like a scene of people being like, we're almost ready to bomb the island, but that hasn't really come into play yet. You have Spandam trying to race across the Gate of Justice, the Bridge of Hesitation. You have Frankie running to catch up to her. You even have the Galley Law people and the Frankie family running the heck away from the blast zone. So it's just a big race. Who will win? Let's find out.
Hopefully not the bombs.
Yikes, that would be bad. Okay, but let's talk about our girl Robin. These were a tough set of episodes for her. I would say more painful to watch even than her flashback. Because the flashback was sad, but it was a little abstract a little bit, because it hurts when someone close to you is hurt, but she was physically abused in these episodes, and Spandam just wanted to make sure that we knew he was the biggest dick in all the seas.
Well, and they even censored it and toned it down a little for the English version. He calls her a stupid woman in English.
Witch, I think, at one point.
But in Japanese, he calls her a bitch. But even toned down, it was still very hard to, like, listen to her take that kind of abuse.
Yeah, I don't really want to describe scene for scene what's going on, just because it's
unpleasant.
It's unpleasant, but she's literally hanging on with just her teeth at the end. That was the last line of resistance that she had, and I personally don't like torturing my characters, but I understand that it's important, and so this is just, it's showing her will to live. She's literally fighting for every inch before she crosses that bridge, and hopefully Frankie will catch up, because, I mean, I think Lucci was the last obstacle, so I don't, things are looking okay, but we're just going to have to see. I will also say, I really enjoyed the scene when, enjoy is the wrong word, but when Robin was running from Spandam, it showed the background was all white, and then slowly this, like, flowing cape kind of appears, and it's pitch black, and it's behind her, and it's right before Spandam grabs her. And that's just a very good artistic shot, because Spandam is not necessarily superimposing on his own. His dokuri is 9, which is less than a normal, healthy soldier with a gun, but in this instance, he's terrifying to Robin. He's not a huge threat in the grand scheme of things, but to her personally, he's like a demon or a devil or something.
Right, and the way he's drawn reflects that.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, do you think the mask just reflects how he's not human? A little bit the same way that, Frankie outwardly appears to be human, though. That's the thing, whereas Spandam has the clear mask.
That's a really good point to touch on, though. Like, Frankie and, to a lesser extent, Chopper are both characters who, technically speaking, are not completely human, but they have human hearts, and they love people, and they try their best for their friends. Spandam is a human, but on the inside is just, like, nothing.
Oh, man. Yeah, he's like, if you ever, like, have bitten into, like, a banana or something, and then inside it's rotten, but the outside looked real. That's him. That's absolutely him. I really hope that he gets punched in the face. I hope that he doesn't escape, you know. I don't know if we've necessarily had any major villains that have, like, gotten away, but at the same time, all the major villains we've seen so far have been the physically strongest member of their group, so I could easily see Spandam and his stupid, like, I'm the most important person. I could see him running away if even the slightest bit of resistance was shown.
I think it would be cool if Luffy was like, I'm gonna punish you, I finally caught up to you. And Spandam's like, no, I don't want to fight you. And Luffy's like, I'm not gonna fight you, I'm gonna take your sword. And he just takes his sword. Luffy, you don't use a sword. I'm gonna give it to Zoro. No, that's my best friend.
Oh no. And it starts the revenge quest. Spandam and Buggy are two people who have personally vowed revenge against Luffy. Probably Arlong too, but we haven't really,
Isn't he dead?
We don't know. There was a cover story that happened already in the manga, I believe, that showed Hachi, the swordsman that Zoro defeated, escaping, but I don't think it explicitly showed what happened to Arlong or Chu or Karubi. Yes, I remember their names.
He was turned into shark fin soup and eaten by the villagers of... Can you eat a fishman? Is that some sort of cannibalism, or do you think that there are people who are cool with it?
With the way that fishmen are treated by the humans, I imagine that there are people who do it, but in a perfect world, a utopia perhaps, where we can all live together in one piece, then yes, I don't think that would be...
It's not one piece like a piece of something. It's one piece like a peaceful world.
That's some people have wondered about that, yeah.
Oh my god. And that has been your final thought.
Mind blown. All right, everyone, have a great night, evening, or morning, afternoon, dusk, dawn, twilight, whatever time it is. And next episode, we'll be watching 4 more episodes. That's 301 through 304. Bye.
Bye!
Rumor is, goddamn, Sanji is cool. The heat of my flames burn hotter than hell. So ends the next leg of the King of the What Now adventure. We're sad to see you go, but we'll be here next week. If you crave some social interaction with us in the meantime, you can find us on all sorts of different media. We have Gmail, Patreon, and Tumblr. All of those are KingOfTheWhatPod. KingOfTheWhatPod at gmail.com, patreon.com/KingOfTheWhatPod, KingOfTheWhatPod.tumblr.com. Our Twitter handlers are a little bit different. You can reach me at KOTWN_pod.
And you can contact me, Curtis, at Pirate Co-host. Also, please take a moment to rate and review our podcast on whatever platform you're using to listen. Not only will this help others find the podcast, but your constructive feedback will help us improve the show as we go.
Thanks so much for giving us a listen. Until next time, follow your dreams and protect your treasure.
Remember, it doesn't need to be literal treasure.